Hi, I'm Stacy.
And I am Mark, and this is the Gurus and Game Changers podcast.
Today, we are so lucky to be sitting with Matt Cabrey from Growing Greater and Anthony JoJo Kwenin.
G'day.
So happy to see you guys.
Great to be here, Stacey.
So
Thanks, Mark.
I want to kind of introduce you a little bit,
Sure.
Matt. So you are the founder and leader of Growing Greater.
Yep.
You led the Select Greater Philadelphia.
Yep.
For how many years?
6.
6 years.
Yeah.
You brought in 62 companies.
Yep.
1,000 new jobs for the Philadelphia region. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We needed that.
Yeah.
You were also at Shire, PNC Bank, Keystone Mercy, American Red Cross, and Mercy Health.
Yep. Very eclectic background.
Yeah, you've been on Fox,
Yeah.
CNN, CNBC, CBS, and PBS.
Yep.
What were you talking about on those shows?
A variety of things. Sometimes it was about pharmacovigilance, which is a fancy way of saying drug safety. And other times it was about how great it is to establish and operate a business in the greater Philadelphia region.
Nice. And history, too? Did you talk about the history
Yeah,
of
the
Philly?
history of Philadelphia all the time. Yep. There's a lot of misconceptions out there and misunderstandings, if you will, about Philadelphia in general. But so we would have those conversations about why this region, the history of this region, those kinds of things. Really fun.
And you have a broadcasting voice.
Thank
which
you.
we love.
Thank you.
And I know from experience what a great guy you are. And I'm
Yeah.
sure like Anthony does as well. But would you mind introducing this handsome gentleman to you,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Anthony JoJo Kwenin. He and I met about 5 years ago. We connected actually first virtually before the word virtual was even a thing, right? It was a phone call because Anthony was involved with a business venture that he'll share a little bit more with us about. And that business venture was establishing operations in Greater Philadelphia. So as part of my role at Select Greater Philadelphia, we were helping to think through some of the opportunities. And then we got a chance to meet in person when he relocated to this region, and we've developed a nice friendship ever since.
Nice. Did you do a good job, Anthony?
He did a wonderful job, as did the city of Philadelphia, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it was one of those things where you don't know what you're walking into, but then once you're here and you start to build a network and you meet people like Matt, the journey just becomes so much smoother.
Nice.
I can imagine. The people like Matt, I looked at your resume just in
Yeah.
doing research. For one, if anybody had half the accomplishments that you have across so many industries, biopharmaceutical, economic development, financial, I mean, you name it, plus all of your broadcast experience, they would consider themselves a success, even with half of those things. So we're thrilled that you're here to talk about it, because I love success, but I love the notion of what's behind that success.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
you can't reach those levels and accomplish those things across such a broad platform without something driving, right? What is that thing that's driving?
Yeah. Well, thank you, first of all, Mark, for that observation. I really appreciate it. And it really just comes down to, from my view, I've been very fortunate to have a lot of different opportunities.
Yeah.
Some of those opportunities I created and went out and made happen. And others were just dumb luck. The door was there, and I made the choice to either walk through it and maximize it or not in some cases. So I've been very fortunate that way. And I think some of the seeds that have been planted in my life that have blossomed started out really early, going back to my childhood, frankly, in my days in West Philadelphia and Overbrook as a big family. I'm the youngest of 7, so I had a lot of different tentacles there.
Yeah, that was my question. Like,
Yeah.
how did it all begin? Like,
Yeah.
how was Matt
Yeah.
Cabrey
Love it.
formulated into the connector that he is now?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. I really do, and some of it I do think is innate, but others, it's a learned behavior. It's a modeling that I saw around me. So I mentioned I'm the youngest of 7, and I think that has a lot to do with how I was formed, if you will, as an individual. And a lot of it is also I attribute to both my parents, but mostly to my mom, who really invested in me in terms of encouraging me to try new things and take some risks and put myself out there in a way that isn't typically a normal and comfortable place to be. But with her coaching and with her encouragement, she really made me more confident in being able to do those kinds of things. And I had a couple other folks along the way, in addition to my mom. And it's funny, it comes full circle. So a lot of it's your family, your parents, and your siblings. And then as life goes on, it evolves. And ultimately, where I'm going with this is it's it's my own kids today. Actually, it's my
wow.
spouse today who they are inspirations to me, and they're teaching me things today. So the roles have kind of switched in some ways. I'm not that old, but really, Stace, to answer your question more specifically, there's a good friend of mine. We just lost her recently at a very young age.
Sorry.
She was my 5th grade teacher. Actually, I should say she was my 4th grade teacher and my 7th grade teacher, but I really connected with her when I was in 5th grade because she was what I called my oratorical coach. So Lisa Citroni, I signed up to get involved in oratorical contests. They were actually competitions, and I signed up for this with her encouragement when I was 10 years old, and she coached me.
That's
and there were 3 categories usually: original content, poetry, or declarations, where you would memorize somebody else's speech and then present it. So those early experiences really instilled in me the importance of communication, the importance of listening, the importance of presenting in a very specific way that I continue to embrace today.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of like fast forward
Yeah.
and talk about like maybe how you two met, Anthony and Matt, and sort of like what happened. Like what was the
Sure.
Just give me the genesis of this relationship.
Sure. I'll just start with a really quick answer and then hand it off to Anthony for
Okay.
the details.
Okay, cool.
The phone rang. Anthony?
G'day, Matt. Matt and I got connected in 2018, and I'm going to say this was the 4 and 20 days, and this is when America was just a pipe dream back then, right? So I'm a kid in Melbourne. I was, maybe 28 at the time. I'm working on this very exciting American project, and the thought of one day living in America or Philadelphia is just a pipe dream. We start this project with the help of Matt, who made some great introductions for us. Project starts going well. Business comes back to me and goes, "Hey, Ant, we really want to give this a shot. And if we really give this a shot, we think we're going to need someone to be there." I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to guess that's someone." It's probably me. They go,
Right.
"Yes." They go, "Are you interested in relocating to America for a period of 3 to 6 months, get this business up and running, and then, we'll figure it out from there?" I said, "Great. Will be a great life experience." So come in, meet Matt, meet Brian, meet a host of other great leaders in the city of Philadelphia. We start things going with the business. Things start going well. A month before that all starts, I tick off this great life accomplishment, right? So as a kid from Melbourne coming to Australia, meat pies are now available in America, right? Never would have thought that was something that was
Can
achievable.
you explain a meat pie to those of us
What
who
is a
don't
meat
know?
pie?
I'm sorry. I know I'm taking you way back, but yeah.
I should have brought a meat pie over.
Oh, where's my meat pie?
I know. Next time.
I'll get you good parking for meat pie.
So a meat pie is an Australian staple, right? So it's basically, think of it as like a handheld or convenient version of a pot pie. So really, it's a staple of life in Australia. It's something you can eat for breakfast, something you can eat for lunch, something you can eat for dinner. You go to a stadium in Australia, instead of a hot dog, you'll eat a meat pie. So it's a great cultural food of ours that we thought, geez, if we can find a way to bring it to America and position it and align with the right partners, we think there's a future in this. And there was. And so that was a great life achievement for me in terms of career traits or career accomplishments. And so fast forward to the start of 2021, Anthony, you've done your part. Well done. Time to come back home, resume normal business. And I'm now sitting there and I'm thinking, man, this Philadelphia experience is actually a really, really cool journey.
It's a great city.
It's a great city. And, one of the things that I learned from Philadelphia that I think will stay with me, and this is something that Matt can speak to very well, was I learned the art and the skill and the value of networking and being a connector. Mm-hmm. And no one does that better than Matt. And, if you can imagine starting out in a new market, in a new city, trying to bring a foreign concept, you can't do that on your own. You're going to need people to surround you. So you're going to need people around you, and you're going to need people that vouch for you. Mm-hmm. And so people like Matt, and seeing Matt work a room and seeing how he adds values to the communities that he's a part of, I was watching that because back then that was not a skill that I had. And so I'm sitting there watching and I'm like, man, this is a very valuable skill to have. Mm. And so I've got to try and get better at this. And so I kind of went back to Australia and I was kind of thinking, geez, I'm a bit bored now. I like the journey. I like the thrill and the excitement of new. And I like challenging myself and learning new skills. And so through some other introductions that got made for me, I had the opportunity to come back to America, start a completely new journey through a lady named Peggy Kelly, who Matt knows as well. And then, I think that's probably the period that Matt and I kind of got a little bit closer, because I came back and kind of was looking at life through a renewed lens. And it was kind of like you're starting that journey again, because again, you're in a new industry. But it was an industry that Matt and I could kind of collaborate a little bit more in. And so again, starting out new, Matt and I would have we're in the same office building as well too.
By chance.
Yeah, just
Really?
by coincidence.
Yeah.
At 1735. So Matt and I would have regular touch points, and I would get a lot out of those touch points. I'd get a lot out of those touch points. Matt is a visionary. He's someone that's very thoughtful in his actions, and he's also a great listener. And so he was someone that I would go to and that had nothing to do with the industry, and I could talk about my observations with and what I'm trying to achieve, and Matt would listen, and then he'd give some advice, and then I'd go off and I'd implement.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was one of those things where, sure enough, I'm fortunate now where, 2 years into that industry, built a great network, got a lot of advocates and sponsors. And again, I go back to the skills that I've been learning from Matt have been a big part of how I've been able to achieve that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Stace, Mark, if I could just drill down on that for a moment, because I want to go back to 2018.
Let's go.
And it all comes back to the comment that we were sharing earlier about opportunities will present themselves, and how we choose to harness those makes a difference. So I'm sitting at Select Greater Philadelphia, which folks may know is a business attraction organization intended to promote the 11-county region of southern New Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, and northern Delaware, bring new businesses here. So of course, I'm interested in taking a phone call from a company and a representative out of Australia who's interested in learning more about growing and establishing business operations in southeastern Pennsylvania. It's a natural, right?
Right.
I could have easily said to one of my team members, you know what, you take that call, I got to go do something else, or doesn't fit my schedule, let's schedule another time. But that's not what happened. And I'm really fortunate that my life intersected with Anthony JoJo Kwenin's life as he's sitting on the phone in Australia, mapping out this kind of vision for what the plan is, and asking, how do we help get some traction in the greater Philadelphia region? And yeah, it's part of my job, but it's also just part of who I am.
Yeah.
I'm a kid from West Philadelphia, and I know the city and the region really well from a variety of experiences, and I like to help people. So those three things kind of all came together perfectly. And I'm really fortunate and feel very privileged to have connected with Anthony and maintained and grown our friendship over those past 5 years.
Yeah, it's awesome. And as you were talking, I was thinking, Anthony, I was thinking about Matt and how I don't think there's ever a time when you say, I can't meet with you.
Right.
I don't. I
Right.
think, you'll say, well, I'm busy this time and this time, but I'm free. And you always put
Right.
the 3 times and days you're available.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're just super open to people networking with you. And I feel like there must be some other level of like a yes man. Like,
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
I need to say yes to this because who knows where it's
Yeah.
going to lead. Like, I feel that from you. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say that's fair, and I'll give you a little bit of a nuance here, Stace, and I hope I'm not coming across as too much of a scooch, which is one of my favorite
What's a
words.
scooch? What's a scooch?
It's a pain
My
in
mother
the
called
ass.
me that all the
Yeah,
time.
right. Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
So we've all gotten a message from a friend or a colleague, or maybe a total stranger, and the message says, "I'd love to get together sometime," and they've never listed a time or a place to meet. So now the burden is on the recipient of that message to say, okay, I could say, hey, great to meet with you too. Let me know some times at work. Or you can respond back with, be happy to meet. Here are 3 times at work for me. And I've just programmed myself to always make those times available for folks. Because I don't want to go through this dance of back and forth of, who's going to set a date, time, and location to get together. So I try to make it easy and efficient. And it's a scoochy aspect that I've tried to master.
I'm gonna have to look that up when I get out of here. I don't
Might be an Urban Dictionary.
Yeah.
You'll
Urban
find it
Dictionary.
in Webster's.
But Anthony JoJo, so like you were talking about experiences that you've had in Philly. Like, is there any cool experiences you want to tell us? Like, obviously, like it's glamorous for me to think to go to Australia. Like, I can't imagine that someone is pining to come to Philadelphia. Sorry, I love Philly. Don't hate on me. But I mean, like, Australia seems so glamorous and cool and romantic, and I really want to go there someday.
And
when
I
have
would
some time.
strongly encourage you to. I would definitely strongly encourage you to go to Australia. It's a beautiful country. Everything that you think about lifestyle in Australia, it's absolutely true. the beautiful beaches, the great accents, very nice people, very down-to-earth culture. All of that's true. But I think what I really embraced about Philadelphia, and again, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, was there's a sense of community here that I don't know what the difference was between Australia and America, but I felt it a lot more here. And maybe it's because I was new and I was on my own, right? So I had to really tap into that. But the people that I've met that I now consider friends and advocates and sponsors could have easily gone, I'm not going to make money from this. I'm not interested. But people didn't go down that path. I think a lot of people were kind of like, hey, he's here. He's an honest guy. He's trying to do something for himself and his company. If I can help him anyway, I'll take that on. And that really meant a lot to me. I'm someone that's very sincere. And so when people are willing to give to me without expecting something back, I don't feel burdened, but I naturally want to reciprocate.
Wow.
And, a cool story that I'll share, and Matt, I hope you don't mind me doing this.
Sure.
Is late last year, I did something that I've been talking about doing for a long time, which was bring some of my Aussie connections in Philadelphia together, right? We all know Matt is a great connector. And Matt and I have had a lot of conversations around different ways to bring people together in different settings for different purposes. And just because of my nature and what I do for work, I tend to be out there a lot networking. So I've met a lot of Aussies in Philadelphia in my time here. And when I connect with this Aussie, they might go, oh, I'd love to meet this other person that you're talking about, right? And, you try and do it and people's schedules don't sync up and whatever else. And so we're kind of getting towards the end of the year and I'm like, I'm about to go the whole year without even trying to do this. And I'm like, no, the holidays are coming up. That gives me impetus to give this a go. Right. And I think I mentioned this to Matt during one of our catch-ups late last year. I'm like, I want to take you up on this and I'm going to do this. And Matt even shared a couple of ideas with me. And it kind of, goes back to something that Matt was talking about, being opportunistic, because I reached out to a business in downtown Philadelphia that is Australian owned. And I said, hey, I'm thinking about having this event. You may or may not get some business returns from it, but can I use your space? They said, we'd be happy to have you in our space. And I was like, how good is that?
That's fantastic.
Right. I'm great at catching up with friends one-on-one, but to go out of my way to be like, let me bring some folks together for a common goal of, hey, we're a bunch of Aussies in Philadelphia. It's the holidays. We may or may not have family. Let's be our own family for the holidays and let's just have a good time together. So that was a big deal for me. And that's something that Matt coached me through. And, Matt, again, about as good a connector as you can ever get. So
Thanks,
that was a cool experience for me to bring those people together and to have people go to me at the end of the night. Hey, it was nice to meet so-so and so, right? And it helps that Jordan came as well too.
Yeah, for sure.
He's a big dude, so big name as well.
That's awesome.
So he's a bit of a guardian angel for you, guru for you, game changer for you, and now you're sort of paying it forward. Yeah. Do you see yourself differently now?
Absolutely. So I'll give you one other example, right? So in the past, if a business connection of mine had asked me, hey, do you mind making this introduction for me? I would have been hesitant.
Got it.
Right? Because that wasn't something that was in my nature to do. Not to say that I wasn't a nice person or wouldn't try it, but I just didn't know how to go about it. Nowadays, I will happily volunteer that, right? So if I'm talking to someone and they're open to the suggestion and I think I know someone that would be a great connection for them, I'll happily volunteer. Hey, you're trying to do this. I know this person that's done that or was also trying to do that. I will happily volunteer that. And I love that I've developed that trait. And again, I'll go back to something that was from Matt. Matt late last year gave me a book, Give and Take, which was
what was it?
Give and Take.
Give and Take.
By Adam Grant. I think it's by Adam Grant.
Oh, okay.
And the whole premise of the book is talking about essentially being a giver in life without expecting anything and giving examples of people that have that mentality that have been highly successful.
Right.
And I think Matt embodies that personality type. So again, Matt giving me that book and me reading it and kind of getting a bit more formulation and thought process behind being a giver was something that I embraced. So these days, as a personality type, I'd like to think I'm someone that in my own community, I'm a net contributor. And, people see me as someone that is happy to help them out.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's awesome. Yeah. Did I see some stuff with the Sixers that you've been working on? Or I was just looking at your LinkedIn, like... Everybody loves the 76ers around here.
Yeah, everyone loves Philadelphia sports.
It's a Philadelphia sports.
Everyone loves Philadelphia sports. And truthfully, I think that was one of the things that helped me integrate into life in Philadelphia. I'm a big sports person. Myself, I played a lot of sports when I was younger. So the Australian company that I work for, shout out to 4 and 20 and Paddy's Foods, big sports platform in Australia.
Okay.
And so part of the entry strategy into America was to leverage a partnership with the 76ers and Ben Simmons, and also Jordan Mailata, who is now a starting left tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Nice.
And just a wonderful personality. He's a beast on the field, but off the field, an absolute gentleman and one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So I was very fortunate in that regard to have had some pretty extraordinary experiences.
That's
moving
fantastic.
to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Kind of.
No wonder you like it here.
Yeah, that helps. I left that part out, but that definitely helps as well.
It's kind
too,
of
so.
important. Fantastic.
And I feel like that's
Yeah.
how you define your success.
Yeah.
Is
yeah.
who you help, not necessarily
wow.
tied to an outcome.
That's a really good observation, Mark. I think you're right. I think, clearly we have to measure success based on outcomes, but I also measure it in how we help other people, how we touch other people. And, Anthony referenced give and take. And I think we all can appreciate this. There are people in our lives, people in this world who are givers and some who are takers. And what I've discovered, and it kind of resonated through the storytelling of the book, is life's much better when you're a giver.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the definition of a guru right there.
Yeah,
it really
right.
is.
You're doing something without expecting anything in return. I mean,
Right.
you personify it.
Yeah.
So you have this thing called strategy for distinction
Yeah.
that you've put together that I saw
Yeah.
in your packet, and kind of it totally is you. Talks about goals
Yep.
and empathy, communicating,
Yep.
being a team player, being a positive person, which
Yeah.
Mark and I totally vibe with.
Yeah.
Right, Mark?
Yeah.
Amen. Yep.
Yeah.
Confidence while you're still authentic and humble.
Right.
Avoid gossip,
Yeah. That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
which I
It'll
love.
Bring it down.
Yeah.
Because the drama is real, right? Am
It's a
I
waste of
right?
time.
It
Oh
takes
my-
your mind off of what you should be focused on.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
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 And then you got to take action,
Yeah.
make time for others,
Yep.
which is what you do every day.
Yep.
Ask for help, tap connections, and then value and build relationships.
Yeah.
So is that sort of how you build people in terms of those?
It is, and I'll give you a little bit of
standards?
a backstory, and I can talk about each of those in a little bit more detail if you like. But ultimately, what happened about 15 years or so ago, it struck me that I would consistently get an invitation, a request from a friend, from a colleague at work, from a neighbor who would say, "Hey, Matt, can you talk with my brother? Can you talk with my niece? Can you help my son or daughter think through his or her next step?" And they may have been in high school, college, or in a career transition type of phase. And I would say, sure, I'd be happy to, because I think people have appreciated that I've navigated a lot of different paths. And as we've talked about, maximize some opportunities, missed some opportunities, learn from those situations. And I could just, help them step back and think through something in a little bit of a different way. And for those of us who are parents, I think we appreciate that other people can say things to our kids that we as a parent can't say to our kids, or we can. It's just not being received in the same way.
So true.
So what ultimately happened after going through these kinds of conversations with a variety of folks is I said, I'm going to put this down on paper. Instead of just like having a cup of coffee and thinking through a particular moment. And that's how I came up with the 12 points in my strategy for distinction that I kind of use as a theme. And I will share it with somebody either before or after our cup of coffee and ask them to think about, how they can incorporate not all of those, but one or two of those. And just explain that those have worked well for me. They're based on real life experiences. And it helps them, I think, to consider different avenues and encourages them to take a little bit of a measured risk, especially when I share a misstep or a regret that I may have had.
Can we pause on that? Because that was my next question.
Yeah.
We love you. You're fantastic. And we all have really good things to say. But I really want our listeners to hear a time when you failed, a time when things didn't go well, because I think we always learn so much when things are not so great, right?
Right.
And we've all had failures.
Sure.
I mean, you don't have to go into deep detail if it's something, that you really don't want to talk about. But I think it's really good for listeners to hear, how did you climb your way out of a hole? Or how did you,
So I'll give you two, one recent and one, early in my career. The recent one, I'll just touch on briefly. I trusted somebody, and I engaged in a new initiative, and it wasn't what it was presented to be. And I learned from that. I don't have any regrets about it because I learned from it and I grew from it. But I was at a place where I should have been more thoughtful about researching and understanding the motivations of other people around you.
Yeah,
right?
been there,
Yeah.
yes.
And it's not a great feeling.
No.
You get burned and you're like, you have a WTF moment and you have to step back and lift yourself back up and say, I'm going to move forward. So very early in my career, I wanted to be a producer, a writer. I wanted to work in that radio television space.
We're hiring.
Are you? But my challenge was, being a kid from Greater Philadelphia, is I wanted to start my career here. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have the courage and I didn't have the confidence. To say, you know what? I'm going to go to Bakersfield, California, or Tupelo, Mississippi, or Wheeling, West Virginia, and start out in a very small market in the radio television industry. I wanted to start here in Philadelphia. And I wished I had the confidence and the courage to take that risk and try something new. And I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? I do that for a year, and doesn't work out the way I thought it was going to be. Yeah,
right? It's hard.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a lot of deep roots here, as we've talked about, and I still do. That's one of the things where I think back and I say, I wouldn't necessarily call it a failure. It was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And a regret. Right, sure. So that's a good life lesson learned. And it comes back to one of my strategy for distinction points. I think it's number 8, which is go for it. Take action.
Yeah.
And I wished I took action. And I did ultimately learn from that. What I ended up doing, I was sending out my resume to all these places, and I would call and follow up and say, hey, did you get it? And they're like, oh, Matt, I have like a stack of resumes behind my desk. I have no idea if we got your resume. So I got in my car, I drew a 100-mile radius around Philadelphia, and I decided I was going to stop into every radio and television station within a 100-mile radius of Philadelphia.
Wow.
First place I stopped, I sat in my car for a half an hour to work up the courage to go in.
It's good for the kids to hear this because,
And I dropped off my resume. I told the young lady who greeted me what I was trying to do. And by the way, she was like my age, 22, just out of college and working at this radio station. And she said, okay, great. The general manager is not here, but I'll give him your resume and, we'll be in touch. So I did that 2 more times. The third place I stopped, I got a job.
Wow.
And it was a Thursday afternoon at 2:00, and I started Sunday night at 9 p.m.
Wow.
That's incredible.
So that's my basis for go for
Take
it.
action.
Take action.
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen? You get a rejection. You get a no.
Yeah.
You get a can't. You get a shouldn't. But that third stop, I was lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. And there are connections that I still maintain from that experience.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
So you turned around that failure into a huge success.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please leave us a review, give us a follow, subscribe, all those things, all those things. We love it because we read each and every comment and it helps shape the show. So we would appreciate it.
Please. And back to the show. How about you?
It kind of ends very similar to Matt in the sense that it was kind of a failure that ended up being a positive. A couple of years back, I was having an event through work, and let's just say one key ingredient to success for the event in my head was not there. And in my mind, it was the worst thing ever, and everyone that came was going to be like, why is this thing not here for the kind of event that you're throwing? And I remember talking to my boss at the time, and I was like, hey, so kind of this thing happened, we don't have this. And he was just like, oh, that's fine. Let's keep it going. And it was just one of these things where all afternoon it had been stewing in my head, how do I mitigate this? How do I tell him? And he was just like, oh yeah, dude, it's no big deal. Like everything else is together, so keep it going. And it was just one of those things where maybe it's because I was a little younger then, but sometimes small things you make into a big thing in your head, and it's really not.
That's right.
It's really not. And so that was a really big lesson for me. And I've got a younger sister who just started her career last year. She just graduated by uni in Australia. And so I'm now seeing semblances of my experience early on, and the stories that she'll tell me, because she'll message me and be like, hey, can we talk this weekend? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. And I'll talk to her, and she might say something that went down, and I was like, I promise you, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
In your head, it's a big deal, but I promise you, your boss has not even remotely thought about it. So I appreciate the growth from that experience, because it's kind of one of those things that you learn that, hey, you're going to make mistakes in life.
Yeah.
It's just a part of life. And so obviously try and avoid it, but it happens. And so when it does, just own it, take the lesson, keep moving. Because there's a new day that comes.
I really want to talk. We talk about routines. What
great.
time do you wake up to do that by 9? Like what?
3:40.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not really tenable for a lot of people to wake up at 3:41.
But
we're not telling you to do that, audience. Don't do it.
But maybe try
don't do
20
it.
minutes earlier
No,
tomorrow
don't
and
do
see
it.
if it can impact
Don't
your
do it.
productivity in your life.
Sleep in, sleep in.
All right, maybe 30 minutes.
All right, how about you guys? Routines?
So I aspire to be an early riser, but 3:41 has never been in the consideration set.
I know, it's ridiculous.
I respect it though. So I'm an early riser as well though. So I'll typically get up at about 5:30, work out, and then start my work day. And I try and stick to that routine because of what you said, right? By the time it gets to 8 p.m. or whatever, so 8 a.m. and most people are getting up, you've already accomplished so many things, and it just sets your day up for success. Now, the flip side, and I got a question for you on this one. What time do you go to bed then?
Good question.
Yeah, around 10.
So you start your day at 3:41 and you have the energy to stay up till 10?
I do. You know
I
why?
respect that a lot.
It's drugs. Drugs.
Is Red Bull. This show brought to you by Red Bull.
Red Bull, we're open. Accepting sponsorships
we're
now.
open. For me, it's this. If somebody was to ask me, 3 words to describe yourself. One is energy, and the other is go. Like, let's go, let's do. It's that take action. Like, let's just, and that's part of the reason that we partner so well,
That's why this is
Stacey and I.
happening.
Yeah.
Because we are just. I've never met. I don't know if I've ever met somebody as much as go, let's go.
Yeah.
Because she's texting me, she's emailing me, hey, I did this. I'm like, oh my God, I was thinking about that. And now it's done. So sleep,
Drugs.
Sleep is important for sure. But I get more of energy boost from doing. And again, then I maximize my time with my family. When my son gets off the bus and it's 3:00, and he says, Dad, you want to play FIFA or you want? I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Because I can, because I front loaded all that stuff. So now I maximize my time, I maximize my health, and I maximize the time with my friends and family. So that's a good day. I don't care if I go to sleep at 9.
Yeah.
It's still a good day.
No, man, I admire it a lot.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But wait, you were still saying.
No, that was really it.
Oh,
I was just impressed with. If
What
you're
time do you go to
started
bed, Anthony JoJo?
Mate, I am by 9:30.
Yeah.
And my friends know me as, if we're out together, like we're at dinner or one of our mates' house, whatever, by 9 p.m. they start turning around, keep an eye out of JoJo. This is about when he just starts.
I start to
his eyes start to get a little
he's
drowsy.
fading.
fantasize about, wouldn't it be so cool when I could put my blanket up to my nose and I think about it when I'm out with you. I feel really bad, but I'm up early too, 5:30 in the morning. And so what's your routine?
So honestly, I don't have what I would call a typical routine. And I would say, especially over the past 4 years when all of our lives have been disrupted, routines have changed. It's not like we're getting up every morning, going through a routine and going into the office and coming home with a routine.
Right.
So we're all working differently. We're living differently. We're enjoying life differently. So the one routine that comes to mind, frankly, is, and this is a little bit of a theme that goes back to my childhood and at my mother's apron strings, is I love to cook. And every Saturday or Sunday morning, it's typically Sundays, but now with again, our different lifestyles, it's more frequently, I cook a big breakfast for the family. And I always have. And it's almost to a point where they expect it. It's like, okay, how you doing the eggs this morning? Or are we going to do bacon or scrapple? Or, so we talk about it, but it's like everybody knows Dad's making breakfast.
That's great.
Wow.
Yeah, and I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It's like I relax. It makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And I have it's all timing. You got a little system down, and it's fun.
Yeah, it's kind of meditative cooking
It is.
sometimes if you do it by yourself. Just
Yeah. I got music playing or I'm watching a show, and I'm multitasking, but it's fun. It's enjoyable.
Nice.
How old are your kids?
I started young, Mark. 29, 27, and 24.
You did start young.
Yeah.
So let's say your sister is 22, 21?
She's 22, yeah.
22. So if you were going to give advice, because I have a 14-year-old,
Yeah.
and I'm constantly giving him advice.
Yeah.
And to your point, he doesn't want to hear it. He wants to hear it from some
Let's hear it
other-
from Matt Cabrey.
Yeah, that's right.
That was what I'm going to connect
Or
with
Anthony
you.
JoJo.
Right?
Yeah.
Not go back and talk to your younger self, because that was a different world back
Yeah.
then. Like,
Yeah.
what are your best advice are you giving the kid coming out of college? I mean, that's it. That's when you're starting your life. Not necessarily always college, but
understand.
the
Yeah,
18
yeah.
to 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Who you're grown up now. It's time to go.
No, that's right. So I would come back to one of my favorites. They're all my favorites, my 12 strategy for the distinctions, but it's value and nurture relationships in your life.
Yeah.
We never know how they're going to come back and help us, or frankly, hurt us in a way that we're not even aware of because we didn't nurture that relationship. And it takes time and effort and thoughtfulness to engage with somebody in a very deliberate way for no other reason other than you want to be helpful to them and you like this person and you want to be part of his or her life. So that's one of my big ones. And these are really subtle relationships at times, especially when you're 14 or 22. You meet somebody in a part-time job or a neighbor across the street who moved in 2 years ago, and all of a sudden you're developing a conversation with your new neighbor, and that relationship could blossom into a lifelong connection, or it could just fizzle out, and you never even know who the person who moved in across the street is.
Right.
So it's a very deliberate and thoughtful, without over-orchestrating it, but intentional type of approach to life.
Spoken like a true connector of people.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is being a connector and a convener, to Anthony's point earlier about taking that risk to gather people.
Yeah.
You go out of your way to set a date, time, and location, and you send out an invitation. And we've all been there. The worst experience is you're having a party and no one shows up.
Oh, it's the worst.
And you're taking a risk to say, hey, I'm going to invite 30 people from Australia to all get together who are all living in
That's a
Greater
risk.
Philadelphia
Yeah.
now. And only 6 show up. It's like, okay, what happened to the others? And, did they not get the invitation? Did they not value this relationship? So that connecting the dots in life based on the relationships that we've established that might be really deep or may not be as deep as we want them to be just yet, or maybe they just fade away. And in reality, that's okay. We can't maximize every single relationship that we make with somebody. But there are those that are really going to pop and that you value in unique ways, and you invest time and energy and resources to grow them and nurture them.
Yeah. That's a wonderful answer.
Yeah.
I love it. How about you, Anthony?
So I'll start by saying something that we've touched on earlier in the conversation, and that's courage. So I moved out of home in Sydney to Melbourne when I was 24 for my career. And I remember I was speaking to my granddad, who's still in Ghana, and we were talking about the move, and he said, how are you feeling? And I was like, I'm excited because it's going to be good for my career, but I'm nervous because I've never lived away from home and I'm close with the family and everything else. And he said something that has always stuck with me. He said, sometimes in life you've just got to be bold. Right? To your point about you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Right? You'll figure it out. And I took that decision, and really that was the step of everything else that happened, which ultimately has led to me being here. Right? If I had turned down that opportunity and said, hey guys, is there any way I can take this role but from Sydney, my life very likely goes down a completely different path. But by being opportunistic and taking that risk and being bold, it's kind of flowed on to where we are now. So now that's something that, to your point, when I talk to my sister and she's kind of having these things, I'm just like, hey, sometimes in life you just got to be bold. You'll figure
That's
it out. We're all
awesome.
very
That's right.
intelligent
Yeah.
people. The chances of you doing something cataclysmic is very, 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 very unlikely.
Yeah.
So being bold is one. And I want to circle back to something that Matt was talking about. And I don't know if I ever told you I did this, but Matt shared his strategy for distinction with me.
Yeah.
And I went home and I was like, okay, I need to come up with my strategy
Yes.
of distinction. And it's funny because I have another mentor that I spend a lot of time with, and he doesn't call it strategy for distinction,
Right.
but he has something very similar. And so I kind of started to notice these high performing people, they all have this kind of mantra or whatever you want to call it, where it's just like, this is what I stand for and this is what I live for. And I was kind of like, okay, well, if you want to be a high performer yourself, you have to have that for yourself. And then the next part of that is you got to live that on a regular basis, which is a completely different story. So I guess one is be bold, and two is, have your strategy for distinction or whatever it is that you stand for and
Love
live
that.
it. And then the last one is some advice that I got from one of my managers in the past, which was the old, what is it? It's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission, which is, again, as someone that's, tries to be nice to everyone and respectful and courteous and everything else, sometimes I have to kind of be mindful of walking that back and kind of going, do you know what, just do it. You'll figure it out. Whatever comes with it later, you'll figure it out and you'll do it. So again, my sister kind of being younger and just starting out in her career, there's times where she's like, do you think I should do this? And I'm like, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'll deal with it. Whatever comes from it, you'll figure it out later.
That's a question I love to ask people. Are you going to ask for forgiveness or beg for permission? What? So we know what yours is. What would you do?
Mine is ask for help. It's
Ask for
okay
help.
to ask for help. And
But
it's
not permission.
No. I'm not good at asking for permission because if I don't get the answer I want, I'm still going to do it.
I feel the same way. We talked about that last time.
Yeah.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I might say no. I don't want him to say no to me.
Right.
This is something I really want to do.
Right. Now I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a confidence thing, right?
It is.
You've
It
confidently thought deeply. You've thought creatively.
Right.
You've come to your decision.
Yeah.
You can ask for help or
Yeah.
advice,
Yeah.
but we're still going forward.
Yeah. But that's one of the things I wanted to touch on real quickly. And Anthony JoJo Kwenin's comment, inspired this thought in my mind. It's a lot easier said than done. So this notion of go for it, this notion of be bold, it doesn't come naturally for everybody. And that's okay too.
Right.
You gotta, develop that courage and develop that confidence to be able to try something new and take that risk. And, I always couch this with taking risk is really important in life, but it's also not about being reckless. And I learned this from one of my gurus in life, which was take measured risks. You want to take risks, but let's not step outside the hash marks of the regulatory environment or step outside the hash marks of the legal environment or the ethical or moral code that we all live by. So you want to take risks, but don't be reckless with it.
What is something from both of you guys that no one knows about you that you can divulge on this podcast so we can use it for a teaser?
Wow.
You can think about it. Do you want to think about it?
I think I might have to.
Something
That's
that
difficult.
No one knows about.
Something that no one knows about you. I mean, maybe your family knows, or maybe your tight family or something.
I once auditioned to be the Philly Fanatic.
Nice.
No.
The
That's
infamous.
an awesome story. Let's hear it.
Oh my God.
I love it.
I love that you're playing music because that was my downfall.
You didn't play music.
I can't dance
You can't
very
dance.
well.
You had to dance. You had to move around.
So here's the backstory to it. I'm at Penn State, and my friend Sean is working
is
as
wonderful.
a part-time. What's the best phrase for this? A part-time singing telegram.
Okay.
And he says, Matt, the organization I'm working with, they're hiring if you are looking for a part-time gig. So I end up signing up, and I become a singing telegram up at Penn State University. It's best known as the Balloon Baboon. So this...
Hold on. There's just so much to unpack here.
There is a lot to
Hold on.
unpack.
There's an actual
Balloon baboon.
Yeah,
that is
it doesn't
part of-
exist anymore.
You
It
can
was part of
sing-
the lore of Penn
Yeah.
State, though.
Yeah, but here's
Got it.
Why didn't I start with this?
Well, here's you have to appreciate the nuance to all this stuff, right? All right, so it's a card shop that sells greeting cards, and they start offering singing telegrams.
Okay.
So they sell greeting cards and balloons, and now they have a balloon baboon. They have a Nittany lion.
Okay.
They have Big Bird. They have several different costumes that someone could call and say, I'd like to have a bouquet of balloons delivered. and I want the costume delivery person to be the Nittany Lion. And we would go into usually classrooms. And we're in a costume, so no one knows it's us.
So you could be free.
And it was really fun.
Yeah.
Right. The most popular one was the balloon baboon. It was a gorilla,
That's just a funny name.
And we'd go into a classroom that, even if it had 12 people in the classroom, it was easy and fun to do. Or you go into an auditorium that had 1,000 people in it, and the professors would allow us to come up on in front of the class and up on stage and say, "I'm looking for Stacy Grant. Is Stacy Grant here?" And all the friends who ordered the balloon bouquet would say, "She's right here!" And they'd all start, and I'd get the whole auditorium to start singing. Right?
Oh, wow.
So that's the backdrop.
Yeah.
So I happened to be looking through and learned about auditions for a mascot in Philadelphia. And I discovered it's for the Philly Fanatic, which at this time had been in existence for about 10 or 12 years. And I said, okay, I went for it. I said, what do I have to lose? I'm going to go down and audition. So I walk in, no costume. You just got to perform.
Wow.
Not wearing a mask or not wearing an outfit or not wearing any kind of,
I guess I get that, yeah.
any kind of what I would call, guard.
Yeah.
To protect you. So
how many people were there? Like, set the stage. Like,
they had it was a room like this. They had a table with like 6 or 8 people who worked in a variety of positions within the Phillies organization. And you had to, they played music and you had to like perform in different ways. You had to have fun. You had to do goofy things. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So how long did you have to do that? Like,
you only had like 5 minutes each. And there were,
a long time.
This was at the old Veterans Stadium, and there was, 16 people out in the concourse who were all waiting to be called in, and you all got your turn. And I was not expecting that level of what I would call exposure, that level of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So I didn't perform the way I had expected to and the way I wanted to. And if I had my balloon baboon costume, I think I would have been awesome.
Wait, did you know the guy who won? Like, who got the part? Like, did he kill it? Did you watch that?
No, I couldn't. We weren't allowed to stay and watch the other performers. But ironically, being the connector that I am, my life path has intersected with that guy again. And I just gave him a ride home last night from an event.
No way.
The Philly Fanatic?
Last
Honest
night,
to God.
the current Philly Fanatic.
Listen.
He's not the current Philly Fanatic.
Oh, he was a former.
So the current Philly Fanatic, his name is Tom. Philly
you even know
Fanatic's
He
friend.
knows everything.
The Philly Fanatic's friend.
Right. Yeah,
And I won't give his last name. It's Tom. But people know who he is. He's the primary guy now.
Yeah.
And the guy I gave a ride home to last night, his name is Bill. He was the backup
Got it.
to Tom, who was the backup to the Philly Fanatic.
Got it.
And Tom ultimately became the lead, and Bill became one of the backups.
Right.
So we just worked a little bit more, and I think they have 3 friends of the Philly Fanatic who support him as needed outside the ballpark. So that's really what this role was.
I think you dodged a bullet, though. Have you smelled that costume? I'm not kidding.
I've
hugged and danced with the Philly Fanatic so many times.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I'm like, woof.
Yeah.
Mildewy. I don't know if they.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Sorry,
I got you.
I love you, Tom. You're beautiful at what you do.
But that's something that I don't share with a lot of people, frankly. It's
a great story.
I have shared it with my close family and friends because it helps to illustrate that vulnerability, that risk-taking, that go for it.
When the mask is off, can you perform?
Right. Yeah. If you ask my wife, no. But it depends on the environment. Like I've gotten very comfortable presenting and listening to in a short period of time and digesting information and being able to appropriately convey that message in a very thoughtful way. And I think that's a skill and a talent that not everybody has.
No, not everybody wants to do public speaking. I would say like that's a very small part of most people's.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on
wants.
that. Yeah.
Well, the skill itself is very rare.
Yeah.
And even certainly at the younger generation, it's just becoming more and more rare because they are not in that situation as often as we were coming up.
That's
where
right.
We had to do that.
Yeah.
We had to get in our car, drive around and hand resumes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just sort of built it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, technology has changed so much. Yeah,
sure.
yeah. But yeah, that's the.
That's cool. Yeah, I had to wear an Easter bunny
That's the one.
outfit one time at an old age home for a bunch of kids,
Yeah.
and they all cried.
They all
were
cried?
You scared them.
All scared of the
Yeah.
Easter. It was the worst. I was in early
Yeah.
college,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I terrorized
Yeah.
this group
Yeah.
of young children,
Yeah.
and I
It
was like,
wasn't
I'm
you,
never
Stace,
doing
it
this
was the
again.
Easter bunny.
My grandmother
Yeah.
made me
Was
do
it
it.
though?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You couldn't see me, Mark.
It's true. Okay, valid.
Okay, it was the Easter bunny.
Maybe it's physical
Right.
presence you're imposing.
Okay, go ahead. Final question.
No, that was great. I love ending on the Philly fanatic. That's wonderful. That's a great story. Come
No,
on.
you have
I
another
loved
one. You have
every
another one.
part of that
Yeah.
story.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
I
Anthony.
loved
It's
every part
fantastic.
of that
Yeah.
story.
It's
Yeah.
good to see that side of you, Matt, because
Yeah.
I feel like we all kind of aspire to be someone like you, and to know that you have some sort of vulnerability.
Sure.
Will help people
Yeah.
who are like trying to climb up the ladder of whatever we're trying to climb up. You know.
I do have to say, I think those vulnerabilities make us better people. They really do.
Yeah.
They test ourselves, they challenge ourselves, and we grow from them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think where you were going maybe was you're very comfortable presenting,
Yes.
digesting and presenting.
Yeah.
But this was a performance
Yes.
that was not without your safety net.
That's right.
For the first time, unexpected. You
Yeah.
walked into a situation and it impacted what you did.
Yeah.
We all have those. I mean, that's just a reality.
And I was also very inexperienced in life in general. I think I was 22 years old. So I didn't have a lot of life experience overall. And I was learning as I went along. And I still am, frankly, in certain ways.
And
yeah.
I can't see you being silly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you're like an adult.
Goofy?
Yeah, right. Don't you
Goofy.
think so?
Those kids.
Yeah.
I'll bet he was
Anthony
silly for
JoJo,
his
like I
kids.
can't
yeah.
see, like we haven't gotten drunk together. Like I think we need to at
Yeah.
some point just like slam some tequila,
Right, right,
and see what see.
right.
That's great.
No tequila for me.
Oh, okay, no tequila. Put that down.
Well, I got to say, just I don't know if this is in closing or
we
not,
can
but
close. Yeah.
both Anthony and Stacy have clearly known you for a very long time and have certainly Stacy has told me all about you, being a connector, great guy, very positive. Everything that's laid out in your strategy for distinction, Stacy told me, and Anthony has echoed here. For the listeners, I had one conversation with Matt. I shook his hand for the first time maybe an hour ago.
Yep.
And it clearly you live, I got the vibe, and I'm very confident that they're very good judges of character, and you clearly live everything that you have written down here. And I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And clearly the impact you have, one random person sitting next to you, I'm sure that person,
How
that
many
seat could be
ripples?
filled with
How many ripples?
dozens of people.
Yeah.
Right. And then the ripples that now you're doing the same.
Exactly.
Right? Because of somebody who helped change your game, plus that one statement that I think your uncle made. Sometimes you have to be bold. It's amazing how one sentence can
Stays
just
with you.
change the trajectory of your life. I love that stuff. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't thank you guys enough.
Well,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
take so much
No.
from these
I know.
podcasts.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful. And I want you two to have some time to like promote whatever you need to promote. So, I mean, tell me like, what are you trying to do now? And what do you want to promote? And you too, Anthony JoJo, so that we can get it out in the world for you and help you, since we're so grateful for you guys coming in here.
Absolutely. And before I do that, I genuinely do want to say thank you to Matt on a lot of different levels, right? One, being a mentor to me over the journey over the last however many years I've been to Philadelphia. And there's a lot of things that I think I've embraced that make me a better person and a better employee that I've learned from our conversations. And a couple of weeks ago, actually, Matt, I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Someone was introducing me to someone and said, he is a great networker and a great connector.
Nice.
And I took a lot of pride in that
Yeah.
because that
Yeah.
was a learned skill. I
That's
don't think
fantastic.
You've earned it.
the Anthony
Yeah.
that first came to America, I don't think people would have been like great networker. They would have been like guy from Australia, he's here to sell some
Yeah.
meat pies.
Right,
Go
right.
talk to him. So I think that goes back to, something that I learned from you that I've been trying to get better at. So thanks for that.
Yeah, my
and
pleasure.
Then thank you for the opportunity to meet these wonderful folks here today
Yeah.
and be a part of this platform. So a little about me. So I'm now working at Miller Knoll. So Miller Knoll is the preeminent design, modern research-led commercial furniture company. So I'm a client development executive there. I'm part of the Philadelphia sales team. We help organizations really live out their workspace. So whether you are in a commercial setting, education, healthcare, even residential, although I don't do residential, but really any workspace that you're trying to solve for, we can help you with that. And we have a collective of brands of about 19 of the most storied and compelling brands. And we've worked with some of the leading designers over the past, half century or so. So if anyone here needs anything to do with furniture or they've got a workspace project coming up, definitely feel free to connect.
How can they connect with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn as Anthony JoJo Kwenin. So that'd be the best way to start off.
All right.
Spell your last name for
Kwenin. So Kwenin.
Got it. Thank you.
Love it.
And here I'm calling him Queenin.
Yeah, Kwenin.
That's the
Matt.
Philadelphia slang.
There you go.
Yeah.
South Philly
Spoon,
slang.
Yeah.
water.
That's
water,
right. Yeah, water. That's
water.
right. Yeah. So I have a couple things going on that I'm really excited about. And the first one I'll share with you is an exciting new digital media project that is really intended to be a game changer called Philadelphia Today. So I'm working with a great team, Ken Knickerbocker and Kim McGuian, who are launching Philadelphia Today. They have about 12 years of success with Delco Today, Montco Today, Bucksco Today, and Vista Today, which is the Chester County version. Mm-hmm. It's a digital media platform, so no printed material. But what's unique about it is it's good news. It's positive news. It's upbeat news about things that are happening in southeastern Pennsylvania. It's the, I didn't know that was happening type of story. No politics, no violence, no crime, no fires, none of those, if it bleeds, it leads kind of perspective, right? So they've had great success, and we connected about 6 months or so ago, and Ken laid out his vision for launching in the city of Philadelphia, and we now have underway Philadelphia Today, and we're very excited about telling those stories from every neighborhood across Philadelphia that is really unique and really special.
So cool.
The second one, real quick, I'll share with you is who I would consider to be three awesome gurus in the commercial real estate space. So Barry and Scott at Mertz, NAI Mertz. They're experts, they're true gurus in industrial real estate and other real estate as well. And one of our partners there is named Jeff Licht. Jeff leads the Pennsylvania shop, and NAI Mertz for more than 40 years has been a leader in the commercial real estate space, and I'm very privileged to be working with them as well. So I have lots of great tentacles out there that are really all captured in this spirit of helping people, helping individuals, helping organizations, and most importantly, helping Greater Philadelphia to grow and to continue to be successful.
So what can we provide to those two organizations to help you? Like what are you looking for?
I would say it's two things. For Philadelphia Today and for all of the Today platforms, we're driven by partners who want to get their stories out. It's all about brand storytelling. So it's an awareness building. Share the whole concept with your networks to be able to say, hey, maybe we can become a partner of Philadelphia Today or Delco Today to get our message out, to get our story out. And with NAI Mertz, I'm not kidding. These guys are experts at all things real estate. And it's not just in Greater Philadelphia. They can help companies from around the world, whether they're coming from Australia or they're coming from Europe, or it's a company that needs to establish operations in Australia or in Europe or in California. It all comes out of the 50-person team at NAI Mertz.
Great.
4 offices here in Greater Philadelphia. And I would just say keep NAI Mertz and our team there top of mind as the partner of choice when it comes to commercial real estate.
So can we email you? Like where can we find you?
Yeah, best to find me on LinkedIn, or
Okay.
I think I have several ways to get in touch, but the most direct one would be Matt Cabrey at outlook.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What else do you have, Mr. Mark?
That's it. Just a great thank you for both of you.
so
I appreciate
much.
it. You've shared so much that people could take away. Like,
Actually, Mark,
Yeah.
Stacy,
Yeah.
it's our thanks to you. This has been awesome, seriously.
I'm
And
glad
You're
you've
the
enjoyed it.
best,
and a
Matt.
special thank you to Anthony
Yeah,
JoJo
Anthony.
Kwenin for joining us.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
It is my
appreciate
pleasure,
bud.
Matt.
Yeah.
It is
VIP
absolutely
parking
my
next time, Anthony.
We'll talk about that off
or
camera.
parking.
That's right. Yeah.
Start with the parking, and then we'll work
VIP
toward the
parking, that's what I
VIP.
said. True.
But this has been
Baby
fun,
steps,
guys.
baby
Thanks for the
steps.
opportunity.
Thanks
It's
for
been
coming
really
in.
great.
Really
Yeah.